The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shades thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It's Friday, you guys. It's Friday, April 4th. And today is, you know what? I'm so glad that we have the doctors on today because you know what? Today is National Vitamin C Day.
Yeah, I love vitamin C.
It's also Jeep 4x4 Day today, you guys.
Those haven't been good vehicles for like 40 years.
I was actually in one last night, and it was so cool. Like he had a grenade gear shifter.
One of the old ones or one of the new
Yeah,
ones?
it was an old one, bro, with like remember the triangular windows that would just slide to the, you know what I mean?
Yeah, the smoking windows.
Yeah. Had those in them. It was pretty cool.
Back when cars were well made.
They didn't slide, they flipped out.
Yes, that part, Jenny Beth. They flipped out. Yes, without flipping out. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, Jason, you're always flipping out.
They calmly flipped out.
It's also National Chicken Cordon Bleu Day. All right, nothing to say about that. Okay, all right. Well,
meh.
All right. And it is also National, you're going to love this. We had Liberation Day earlier this week, and now we have National School Liberation Day. Rico, you joined us right on time for National School Liberation Day.
Yeah. Was that spring break?
Oh, man. It's also a National Walk Around Things Day today, you guys. So make sure you walk around things. Don't walk into them, I guess, apparently.
I'm running right through them. Fuck that.
That's how I'm with you, Rico. Take it head on. Boom. You know what I mean? Just decleat them. All things. Street lights, whatever.
The economy.
Economy. This is a golden opportunity for people right now. Everything's on sale. And it's also, Rico, you are going to love this. This might be the best day of the year because it is also National Hug a News Person Day today.
Are we technically news or are we just newsy?
I think we qualify as this. I think we 100% qualify.
As what?
No DEI. As news people.
We've got some bullshit artists on the show sometimes. Not today specifically, but sometimes.
Whatever, Jenny.
Every day Jason shows up, there's a bullshit artist.
Stop it. Stop the cap. Stop the cap. Oh, man. Well, thank you all for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. It's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above and down below to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, X, Instagram, Facebook, Kick, as well as on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. So welcome to everyone joining us from any one of those platforms, and we are going to roll right on in to the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte. the DEI daddy that loves to roll around in his caddy. That's right, it is the dope dad himself, Mr. Rico Lamitte.
You should get a caddy, Rico.
He does have a caddy.
I'm a Benz man, actually. Fuck that.
He's got a station wagon, Benz.
He's got a caddy.
Daddy
Yes,
mobile.
the Zaddy wagon. It's the Zaddy wagon. And
yeah.
all right. So thank you, Jason. And I wish I could say good morning, but it's not.
Yes,
it's not a good morning.
It's a great morning.
It's not a good. It's not a good morning for a lot of America. So I'm gonna be very direct with my story today because this is not a drill. We are no longer speaking in hypotheticals because of Donald Trump's choice to declare a global trade war this week, driving the world economy into a ditch with 8 billion people in the backseat with no seatbelts on it. Things are bad, and they will get worse for all of us. The dire consequences of the dumbest trade war ever seen, with Liberation Day essentially laying a tariff blanket over the whole world, except, interestingly, Russia and North Korea, have already begun to upend the global supply chain. So I rounded up and summarized 4 different expert takes on how the dumbest tariff policy in modern history will be affecting the cannabis industry. Reuters. I just got higher. Trump's tariffs to raise prices for U.S. cannabis users by Manalika Roy. Summary is Trump's tariffs to increase U.S. cannabis prices. New tariff imposed by President Trump will raise the cost of cannabis products in the U.S. as many companies rely on imports from Asia, particularly China, for essential components like vape hardware, tins, and glass. Cannabis businesses already operating on thin margins will struggle to absorb the extra costs, forcing most price increases onto customers. As legal cannabis prices rise, more consumers may turn to the illicit market, further hurting the legal industry. The tariffs have already impacted stock prices, with shares of major cannabis firms dropping between 5 and 10%. Additionally, North American trade disputes may worsen the situation, increasing costs for essential growing materials like compost and peat from Canada. With manufacturing spread across multiple tariff-affected countries, businesses face mounting logistical and financial challenges. Ultimately, customers will bear the brunt of these rising costs. Fresh toast. Cannabis consumers are being hit hard by the tariffs, by Terry Hacienda. Summary is tariffs drive up cannabis prices and they're hurting consumers. New U.S. tariffs on imports from China up to 45%. Canada and Mexico 25% are significantly increasing costs for cannabis-related products like vape hardware, packaging, cultivation equipment. While cannabis itself cannot be imported, the industry heavily relies on international suppliers for these essential components. Most cannabis businesses cannot absorb the 10 to 15% cost hikes, forcing them to pass expenses on to consumers. As a result, prices for items like vaporizers and pre-rolls are rising, potentially pushing more customers toward the illicit market, raising safety concerns and undermining legal cannabis businesses. Tariffs have also triggered a 5 to 10% decline in stock prices for major cannabis companies, while smaller businesses already struggling with high taxes and limited banking options face even greater risk. Some companies are exploring alternative manufacturing in Malaysia and India, sustainable packaging and automation, but these solutions take time and resources, neither of which current operators have. With trade tensions showing no signs of easing under Trump's administration, the industry must quickly adapt or risk financial strain, slowed growth, and possible mass extinction. Business of cannabis. Trump's tariffs likely to raise prices for U.S. Cannabis consumers by Ben Stevens. Summary is tariffs threaten U.S. cannabis industry with higher costs. President Trump's new tariffs are set to raise prices for U.S. cannabis consumers by increasing the cost of essential imports by like packaging and equipment, which are largely sourced from Asia. Despite the cannabis industry being a closed domestic market, businesses face growing financial strain and already razor-thin margins. Cannabis packaging in particular is heavily impacted by state laws requiring child-proof designs, making affordable domestic alternatives scarce. With U.S. manufacturers unable to compete with China's pricing, costs are expected to rise by 34% in the packaging lane. Unlike during COVID, there is no government support to help businesses adjust, leaving them to either absorb costs or pass them on to consumers, most likely be the latter. This could push more consumers toward the illicit market, weakening the case for legalization altogether and potentially inviting more regulatory hurdles that further drive up costs. Industry experts warn that without the relief measures, these tariffs could be a major setbacks for legal cannabis businesses already struggling to survive. Then finally, Forbes. How do tariffs on China affect the U.S. cannabis industry? By Dario Sabagi. The summary of this one is U.S. tariffs on China disrupt the entire supply chain. President Trump's tariffs on Chinese imports, now as high as 45%, are increasing costs for and I should note on this one, this is before China clapped back this morning, right? So there will be even further retaliation driving them up even further. So, but President Trump's tariffs on Chinese imports, now as high as 45%, are increasing costs for the U.S. cannabis industry, which relies heavily on China for packaging, vaporizers, cultivation equipment, and other various parts of the supply chain. While cannabis itself can't be imported, key components for its production, mainly sourced from China, are making industry vulnerable to these trade policies. In response, companies are shifting production to Southeast Asian countries, Malaysia and Indonesia, to reduce costs. However, China's established expertise in supply chain efficiency make full diversification difficult, if not impossible. Companies like iSpire, NPAX have already moved parts of their production preemptively, expecting this disruption to take place, while others will struggle with high costs and logistical hurdles and possibly replacing them with unsafe parts that are doomed to hurt consumers. High prices may drive more consumers to the illicit market, hurting small businesses. And while tariffs could eventually encourage a more resilient and diversified supply chain, U.S. manufacturing remains an unlikely alternative due to high labor costs and lack of expertise. Industry experts believe long-term automation, global supply chain adjustments will be necessary for sustainability, but in the short term, businesses will suffer, if not just go out of business. All right. So that's what the news had to say this morning. The top 4 hits that I had. Here's my take. Unfortunately, last November, the majority of American voters officially chose to fuck around, putting their entire livelihoods on the line by voting to reelect an incompetent, incontinent, racist, pathological liar, failed businessman, sexual deviant, a scammer, total fraud, and 34-time convicted felon who failed his way up in life, bankrupted every business he's ever run in the private sector, that left our nation's capital in literal shit-stained shambles on his way out in the wake of a failed insurrectionist plot that was schemed up by a bunch of dim-witted domestic terrorists hell-bent on keeping his bum ass in office, thinking that he actually cared about them. This Tuesday, all of America was officially forced into finding out the harsh truth of the consequences that would actually be put on all of us for putting a petty idiot surrounded by unqualified yes men in charge of the global economy. I wish I had a silver lining to deliver on this shit, but the emperor's clothes were made in China. I was weeks into my first corporate finance job in October of 2007. When Clinton and Bush's economic chickens came to roost and shit hit the fan. As a diversity hire, the only black person in the office, I could not be fired. Thank God. I still was selling weed because there was no money to be made there. I was one of 44 people when I first started. When the economy started to rebound, I was one of 4 left. The difference between then and now is Barack Obama, who inherited that mess, had a competent, experienced cast of characters in his cabinet. They understood the nuances of a global economy and all that was needed to keep the train on the tracks. I, along with many others, did not agree with everything that he did or approved of being done during that period, and he lost my second-term vote as a result. At the end of the day, fundamentals remained intact. They were preserved, and America recovered. On the other hand, Donald Trump fired everybody within his orbit with any diplomatic crisis experience and replaced them with a bunch of hyped-up internet personalities, Fox News hosts, and corrupt businessmen with questionable motives and well-documented pasts that have pledged loyalty to him, not America. The stupid prize awarded to those of us who chose to play this stupid game is the complete removal of fundamentals. Trump said once he's back in office, inflation would stop immediately, job production would be through the roof, and America would be richer than ever before in its new golden age of prosperity. He even tweeted that voting for Kamala Harris would instantly crash the market, leading us into unprecedented economic turmoil and possibly even a depression. At least he's got the second part right. America's now at the unpredictable mercy of an unchecked mad king. Good luck to you all. I'm Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News.
Man, that was a mouthful.
I knew
know.
when I saw his title this morning what was about to happen.
Exactly.
I knew when I looked.
Let's talk facts.
Here he goes.
Let's talk facts, not emotion.
I mean, you're talking all emotion.
Emotional. You started out by calling someone a racist, sexual deviant, and said that you literally shit-stained things. So let's talk facts and not emotion, because when's the last time you looked at the inside of his underwear?
Was Nancy Pelosi's desk chat on? Yes, it was. That's what I said. Literal shit-stained. Washington.
I don't know about
insurrectionists.
I don't know about any of that. That sounds a little over the top, personally. But you know what? I mean, this is the thing. I thought it was kind of funny how you said that prices are going to go up and the trap market's going to thrive. But like packaging and stuff like that, the trap market still buys packaging, and so the prices are going to go up on them too. It's going to be felt all the way around on all parts of the industry in regards. And a number of people in the cannabis industry have been told to move their manufacturing and whatnot to Taiwan and other favorable nations back when COVID started. Okay. And just because they didn't have foresight back then, or the, you know what I'm saying? Like don't go cry up a river now.
Hey, cannabis folks, if you need a solution, I've got some really great U.S. packaging solutions for you. So reach out to me and I'm happy to connect you with those guys. They're very, very good people.
Exactly. There's tons of solutions out there. People just need to start looking at your glasses being halfway full instead of halfway empty.
Yeah, at least you still have a cannabis fucking company to cry about. A lot of people don't. So look at Rico. Rico doesn't like my response.
I know he doesn't.
Okay.
No,
Sorry.
I'm just waiting for you to just give some facts out as to where anything that I said was wrong.
Everything you said, pretty much everything you said was wrong. Pretty much everything you said was wrong.
Well, I think the basis for the article were articles that were people's opinions, right? Were they not?
Yeah, they're all bases on people's opinions. There was no actual data.
And from the names, I've never.
No, these were economic sources saying that how the global supply chain is going to affect. This is economics. Straight up, this is how these tariffs are working, and this is how the prices are going to rise.
The tariffs are reciprocal, Rico. We're going to have American products being able to be sold in their countries, and it's going to be an equal thing. All these other countries have been screwing over America for decades, bro, and now it's coming to the table.
Here's the thing. I beg of you. I don't care where you get this go on YouTube or whatever. Watch any basic video of how tariffs really work.
I understand how tariffs work.
Hold on, not what Donald Trump, not what these people on Twitter are telling you how tariffs really work and how they are expected to affect the economy. And you can look at right-wing sources. You can look at left-wing sources. I don't care. Just get off of Twitter.
I'll tell you what, Rico.
Find out how this shit really works, and you'll understand what the fuck is coming right now.
I know how they all work, but I'll tell you what, egg prices are down right now, Rico. Just saying. I'm going to go make some eggs after the show. Maybe like 4 or 6 of them or something. You know what I mean? Jesse, any of you guys have anything else you guys want to say on this story related before we move on?
I'm just tired of the opening of the show being all about Trump and ruining the entire vibe.
Oh, all right. Well, then you know what, Jesse? We're going to roll into our next commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh, man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, I left one, you know? And I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you know you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Tested. It's not a name, it's a promise.
Great. It's a good thing my mic wasn't working for comment.
Yep. And we are back, you guys.
All right, y'all, Jason Beck.
Yeah. All right, fair enough, Rico. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Now we have the highest host of the show, High at 9 News, not the highest host. That's Adam Mill. Shout out to him. The highest Republican in every room that he walks into or out of. The fighter of TDS at Jason Beck.
And don't forget EDS also now too. But nonetheless, let me
not to be confused with ED.
Yes. I have, I know my story is a gaslighting story, and I believe Dr. Tallyrand, your story is a gaslighting story too, right? So just for the next two stories, just know that people are gonna be gaslit, okay? Just just already put your gaslight masks on because it's about to go down. Because police warn Rhode Island public about fentanyl and marijuana after a woman's death. The 27-year-old woman died after unknowingly consuming marijuana laced with fentanyl. The Warwick police are warning the public after a 27-year-old woman died after unknowingly consuming marijuana apparently laced with fentanyl. She was found unresponsive in Warwick after consuming marijuana that wasn't purchased from a licensed dispensary, the police said. She was pronounced dead despite life-saving efforts, the police said. The police said the preliminary investigation indicates the marijuana was contaminated with fentanyl, a powerful synthetic opioid that can be lethal even in small amounts. The overdose happened at 2:34 a.m. in the morning, Thursday, at a Warwick hotel, the police said. Although they declined to name the hotel or provide the exact address, the police are investigating the source and urge, in quotes, the public to exercise extreme caution when purchasing or using marijuana from unregulated sources, they say, end quote. In an additional quote, they say, As our investigation continues, we are working to determine whether this is an isolated incident or part of a larger trend, end quote, from Captain David D. Mayo said in regards with this. And I can't wait to hear what you guys have to say about this. I'm willing to bet that this lady was in like some kind of Motel 6 kind of type of situation. And probably exactly. And probably someone...
Sorry to see a loss of life, but Jason, what the sheriffs will stop the import of this damn fentanyl.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. It's and that's what this administration is working on.
I can't.
Mm-hmm.
No, this is sad. I mean, once again, since we want to talk about economics this morning, it makes absolutely zero effing sense to put something that is an expensive drug in one of the cheapest drugs to buy. So I don't know any drug dealer who's like, they're buying a 10 bag of weed. Let me throw them some fentanyl.
Yeah, let me just throw this in. That's a little extra, little scoopy scoop.
This is insane. I mean, I just every time I read these, I'm like, why? God. The only way I can ever see this happening, I've said it every time, so I'm going to say it this last time, and I'll probably never comment on one of these stories again. But you got a lazy dealer who uses the same scale to measure out his first Fenty clients and his weed.
You know what I really think, Jenny? What I really think happened is because they're saying that it was a hotel or whatever, and that they're not naming the hotel. So I'm willing to bet it was like a Motel 6 kind of thing. You had a fentanyl dealer that had rented a room. The housekeeping didn't clean everything properly, and so there was probably a whole bunch of remnants of fentanyl dust. You know what I'm saying, from them packaging and breaking stuff down or whatnot. And then she rolled something up on the table that had a bunch of whatever, and then boom. That's my guess.
She got high on fentanyl and tried to.
Yeah, maybe she did it to herself. That's. I mean, that is, you know, it is possible, but I don't know. I don't know.
People die from real drugs. Like, start blaming the fentanyl crisis. Leave the weed out of it.
Exactly.
This should have been an article about fentanyl overdose again.
Well, it was coming from the cops, so you know they're only going to paint the narrative one certain way.
Yeah. I mean, at least they told you to go buy legal weed, but like, I mean, I don't. Whatever.
I did find it noteworthy that they did say that this cannabis was purchased from an unregulated source. And so I did think that was good, and like there was, you know what I'm saying, somewhat some truth in regards with the law enforcement statements. That's the first time I've really seen them make that type of distinction in one of these stories. So I do think we are making a little bit of progress possibly with them.
I mean,
what's up with New England? Because the other big story where the cop was claiming that there was fentanyl in marijuana, that one was out of Massachusetts, wasn't it?
Yep.
Well, Massachusetts is notably known for an opioid crisis as well.
Yeah.
So I think that's. Sorry, why? I'm
gonna predict in the near future that this will be redacted.
Exactly.
Like the other one was, but that'll be swept under the rug. This is the headline that people are going to read, and people are just going to believe this shit.
Right. It's the narrative, and we're going to stick to it. Damn it, Rico.
Doctors, do either of you two have anything you'd like to say on this?
The stories like this are puzzling to me. What is fentanyl? Fentanyl and cannabis are two different substances.
Correct.
They look very different. So I don't. What does fentanyl laced cannabis look like? What's the process in lacing it?
Exactly. There is no process. You know, I mean, unless you're like back in the 70s when people would like smoke Grimmies and stuff. Dr. T.
It's like a Sperm joint.
Yeah.
But different.
Oh, so you're saying they're smoking the flower in a cigarette form, joint form, and they added
sprinkling it on?
Yeah, the little sprinkle sprack. Yep.
Solid fentanyl into it.
That's what they're saying.
Oh, good point from Hawaii. Sustainable. How did the police know where she bought it?
I'm willing to guess it by the packaging.
When people used to lace like blunts and shit, didn't they like lace it like with dust or lace it with like Coke and shit like that? Like
that's that's why I said that's a Grimmy.
Why would you? But fentanyl is gonna make you fucking nod off and shit. Like, why the fuck would you put that on?
Yeah.
Well, maybe the purpose was to use fentanyl, and it was cannabis. It was fentanyl laced with cannabis.
You know, this is the thing. Hold on, Dr. T. You already know from being in San Francisco that when drug addicts are already using those hard drugs, most of those drug addicts are like, no way, I don't even touch weed. That's not even strong enough, or or that'll make you crazy or whatnot. They always say stuff like that. That's what I've witnessed my entire life around these 5150s.
Well, I've definitely seen my share of 5150s. That's not common, and most people use cannabis, whether they are using other drugs or not using other drugs. In San Francisco, they're using cannabis as sort of a normal thing for everyone to use. So it's not a big deal. I think the cannabis that the fentanyl consumption may have been intentional.
I agree.
I have a million questions. One is Curly Greenleaf actually in the comments said it too. Couldn't the cops be planting this to make weed look bad? First of all,
yes, definitely.
Yes. And if it's all in New England, could there be a pattern there? And then second of all, does fentanyl even actually survive the combustion process?
No, it doesn't. It thermally degrades. It's stupid. Absolutely dumb.
Yeah, so anybody who actually wants to do fentanyl wouldn't do that.
Hold on. Let Dr. Mark go off on this for a second, please.
Yeah.
Go off, Dr. Mark.
So the compound is not thermally stable. You bring up a great point, Jesse. It's basically going to degrade. If you sprinkle a little bit of that out of your bowl, it's not like you're freebasing Coke or anything like that. It doesn't cleanly vaporize. What vaporizes are the degradation products, which are probably toxic. It's not a thing.
So it wasn't even fentanyl that this person would have died from, then, is what you're saying then, Dr. Mark. It would have been from the ulterior ingredients.
Or just have a whole world of hurt because they're not actually ingesting fentanyl. They're ingesting fentanyl degradation products from sprinkling it on top of a bong or a bowl. It's completely stupid. This is a Kevin Sabat narrative, right?
Yeah, it is. Yep.
The cannabis is laced with fentanyl. This is all just bullshit that's manufactured by our the women and men who are basically looking to demonize cannabis, right? We have to get cannabis off the streets because they're lacing it with fentanyl. What a bunch of bullshit. This is bullshit.
I'm so glad to hear that from you, Dr. Mark, because now you gave me some more science to talk when I talk to people in regards with this. So thank you very, very much for that.
About time I did something useful.
You are so useful all the time, Dr. Mark. Don't shortchange yourself on that. You know what I mean? I wish you could have made it down here though while you were here.
Jason, we're starting business in California, so I will be back.
I love it. I can't wait. I can't wait to host you guys while you're down here. And yes, most definitely. Dr. T, do you have anything you want to add in on this before we move on?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
This is a confusing story. It definitely seems suspicious.
I warned you though. I said it's a total gaslighting story. I gave the precursor ahead of time that this, you know what I'm saying? It's law enforcement propaganda. You know what I mean? And shout out to Deschedule Now, Mr. Ben LeBone, who says in a super chat, who says, tariff the penguins. All right. And coming up next, we are going to roll right into Dr. Jean Tallyrand. He's the founder of the CESC and of Medican, where you should be getting your medical cannabis recommendations, especially if you're here in the great state of California. That's right. He's been writing recommendations so long, you should just see how many scripts he's written, probably more paper than most people have counted. That's right. It is none other than Dr. Jean Tallyrand.
That's a HIPAA violation, Jason.
How is that?
He's not showing his medical records of patients.
I didn't say that. I said he's written more on more paper than people have counted, Jenny Beth.
You should see. All right. Have a good day, Jason. I love you.
Happy Friday, everyone.
Yeah.
To bang here. All right. So globally, 58 million men suffer from infertility. The prevalence of male infertility increased 77% from 1990 to 2019. Despite the increase in male fertility, the world's population has also increased during the same period, 48%. So not as much as the infertility, but it's increasing. Infertility is not a current public health concern because of this. It's an individual's concern. However, the New York Times has decided that this topic is worthy of an article. The title of the article is Your Weed Habit May Be Messing with Your Sperm by Alexander Nazarian. About a decade ago, male patients started coming to Dr. Pastuzak after a question that has only become more common. Would smoking weed make it more difficult for them to have children? Dr. Pastuzak, an expert in male fertility, but not a cannabis user or cannabis specialist, knew that laws and norms around cannabis were being relaxed across the country and that many men were uncomfortable discussing their use with a physician. If they asked, he just didn't have anything concrete to tell them. Until recently, the answer was, I don't know, said Dr. Pastuzak, who is now a urologist at the University of Utah. So he started looking for an answer. Cannabis was used at least once by 52.5 million Americans in 2021, according to the CDC. Yet, because it remains illegal under federal law, it's hard to study, and its long-term effects are still poorly understood, said Dr. Omar Rahim, a urologist at the Cleveland Clinic. Even so, when it comes to the male reproductive system, some effects of cannabis are pretty clear. After looking at 48 studies from around the world, Dr. Pastuzak found that the cannabis products do harm a man's chances of conceiving children. THC, certainly in smoke form, can impact semen, Dr. Prastuzak said, and therefore damage male fertility. Experts have only recently been able to discover how THC affects sperm cells, bending their shape, slowing them down, and changing their genetic material. Studies conducted at the University of Buffalo found that anandamide plays a critical role in reproduction, preventing more than one sperm from fertilizing the egg at one time. In his 2019 review, Dr. Prastuzak reported that cannabis was strongly associated with lower sperm counts and concentration, as well as a higher incidence of abnormally shaped sperm. Another study of 229 Jamaican men showed that moderate cannabis use was associated with a 3.5 times greater likelihood of misshapen sperm. Recently, we reported at High 9 News that a new study of 113 Jordanian men found sperm motility was much lower among cannabis users than tobacco users. However, no study has reported that cannabis causes male infertility. I mean, that's really the bottom line. So this New York Times article is misleading, takes a page out of the Reefer Madness playbook with its title. World population has currently reached 8.2 billion people. More people put more demand on the planet, requiring more food, water, sanitation, homes, and public services. While species have decreased, global temperature and oceans are rising and forests are disappearing. Yes, THC messes with your sperm. It also appears to shrink tumors, reduce seizures, reduce inflammation, and the need for opiate medication. However, if men are concerned with fertility, they should consider stopping their cannabis use. Otherwise, most cannabis users should use appropriate birth control, as cannabis is not impeding pregnancy. This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with High 9 News.
Oh man, I love when the medical community wants to get a man to stop doing something. They always threaten something to do with his penis. Mm-hmm. Like, there's microplastics in your wiener. You drink too much, your dick's not going to get hard. You know, like it's always, but also to be fair, most men won't go to the doctor unless they're literally dying or something is wrong with their penis. So my child is walking, living proof that sperm count nor oral birth control is going to stop pregnancy. Mm-hmm. So yeah. Mm-hmm. That blunt's not going to keep you from having to pull out, bud.
Well, I'm going to say this. I remember when back in the day,
seeds.
Well, I was about to say that back in the day when we all used to smoke Bammer weed before green weed was ever even a thing, and all we had was this Mexican brick weed, and that was the rumor is that if you smoked weed if you smoked the seeds, that it was going to make you sterile like instantly and whatnot. Yeah. And most of the people that I knew that smoked Bammer weed, they had so many kids. I was like, how is that even possible?
Well, a lot of these things are just speculation too, until we get the ability to study Schedule 3 cannabis. That
I see what you did there, Dr. T. That was
propaganda will continue, right? So yeah, let's do more studies.
Mm-hmm. I'm all with
important.
I'm all with more studies, but I feel like this is a big old propaganda piece too, and you know what I mean. And I talked with a friend of mine, a doctor friend of mine, in regards to this, and they said it can affect that, but like there's other effects too that are positive that come from smoking cannabis and everything, and so it's kind of like it's like a yin and a yang in a perfect world. You know what I'm saying?
Anything's possible.
Or you just yin your yang.
Yeah, I mean, you can equate similar situations like driving and cannabis use. We're not really having issues with increased accidents, with increased availability of cannabis, but there's a lot of talk about how to stop people from driving and smoking, right? And there is evidence, just like the misshapen sperm, there's evidence that you have poor reaction time when you're driving a car. So there's a potential for increased accidents. It's just not happening. So we've got to really tap into the real world evidence rather than the fear.
I totally agree with that. Dr. Mark, do you have anything you want to throw in on this?
Just from my own personal experience, if weed smoking has something to do with fertility rates, it didn't work with me at all. I had 2 kids, no problem. So
see, and you used to smoke Bammer weed too, right?
Oh yeah, man.
See, See what I'm saying?
That's
Bammer weed have more THC.
No, it had more other like probably like toxins and all that stuff that they say is bad for you nowadays.
Like the gas tank it was smuggled over in kind of type situation sometimes.
Yeah, little paraquat here and there, you know what I mean? All of that good stuff.
It was the one that you had to fluff up with the fork and use some scissors to get the stems and seeds out before you could roll it.
You know, we used to
absolutely. My Mexican brickweed back in the day smelled like the gas tank from which it was smuggled in.
Well, that's because it was real gas.
That's gas.
That high octane right there.
Hey, there we go, Jason.
Yeah.
Smells like a gas pump.
So stinky. So I can't believe we smoked that shit.
Oh man, times are rough back then. You know what I mean?
Looking back now, we're so spoiled. I'm gonna quit complaining about depths and even outs because we smoked Bammer weed happily in the backseat of shitty cars for a long time.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A shade somewhere in between brown and green.
Yeah.
You have anything you want to throw in on this brickweed, Jesse?
Oh, I used to get the best brickweed. It would come in. It was black and it was so compressed that you couldn't even pick it apart or get the seeds out. You had to just smoke, and it did smell like gasoline. So you just had to smoke it up. So first,
I was a Bammer.
You just ignore it. Hope it doesn't all just ignite it once.
Exactly.
I was a Bammer kingpin back in the day, man. Man,
it was crazy back in like I want to say when we were in Chicago. I want to say like 06, 07. That's when shit started to change. All of a sudden.
I was about to say, if you went from like 07, we got to talk, Rico, because
this is Chicago though. This is what I'm saying. Like later on, we found
Georgia.
Hold on. Later on, we found that the majority of our shit was just straight El Chapos, and when it started to get better, it was like, oh, this shit, we didn't know what the fucking strain was, right? It was just like you got what you got, and you put out whatever you got, and sometimes it would be brick, and then we just started getting to, oh, this shit's actually green. This shit has like orange hairs. What the fuck is this? Like it was a good time, man. Like times were changing, and look at where we are today. Look, 20 years of progress.
BC bud coming down the I-90.
20 years of progress.
What's that, Jesse?
I said, Rico, you didn't get any of the BC bud coming down I-90 to Chicago?
I don't know where it came from. We just got whatever that came in the turkey bag from our OGs, and it just started to get more. It just started getting flavorable or more flavorable, and it just started like all of a sudden getting better. We had different flavors and shit like all of a sudden. So
what's funny is even when I got my when I got my very, very, very first cannabis dispensary back in the cannabis's infancy, there was 10 pounds of Bammer involved in that transaction back then. And shout out to Vermont Alternative, who said Hawaii Sustainable says, don't give me no Bammer weed. We don't smoke that shit in the SFC, from RBL Posse. And on that, we're gonna roll into our next commercial, and we are gonna be right back. And hold on, Jenny. Hold on, Jenny. And we are back. Stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you smash that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and YouTube will appreciate it. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.high9news.com. And if you are a licensed cannabis business in New York and you are looking for a steady supply, I can help you with that. So make sure that you reach out to me. My contact information is in the description of this video.
I just ordered the summertime strawberry salad when added steak on top here at Anna's. Make sure you do the same thing too next time you're in downtown Long Beach. Come on down and check out Anna's joint on the 400 block of Pine Street. They have amazing selection of beers, foods, and when you come down here to Anna's, you can even challenge me to a game of shuffleboard if you want to lose. that? So, next time you're in downtown Long Beach on Pine Avenue, make sure you stop by Anna's Joint on the 400 block. Not only do they have Anna's Joint, this restaurant and bar, but they also have the amazing deli next door, and then next door to that they have a very exotic flower shop. You may want to stop by and say hi.
And we are back, Rico.
Yeah, up next, it's a highly recognized New England-based organic chemistry expert, always bringing a little Friday heat to the table, leaving us a lot smarter after we listening to him than we were before we listened to him. Here to break us off is none other than Dr. Mark Scialdone.
Thank you, Rico.
The professor.
Hey, everyone. Happy Friday. Hope you're having a great week. Sun is shining up here in Vermont. I hope it's shining where you're at. I hope cannabis is somehow in your weekend plans. So my story today comes from, let's see, what is this? Daily Galaxy. In their science section, they say that scientists discovered THC-free cannabis compound that could end chronic pain without opioids. Sounds pretty exciting, doesn't it, Dr. T? So researchers have found a cannabis compound offers pain relief without the high of THC. This approach might provide some safer alternative to opioids. So a breakthrough study suggests that cannabis-derived compounds known as terpenes may provide a new solution for chronic pain relief, potentially reducing the reliance on opioids. Conducted by researchers at the University of Arizona Health Sciences, the research focuses on terpenes from the cannabis sativa plant and their ability to alleviate pain without the psychoactive effects of THC. That doesn't sound like any fun, does it? So terpenes, a promising new approach to pain relief. Cannabis terpenes have long been recognized for their distinct aromas and flavors, but recent research is highlighting their potential therapeutic properties. According to a study published in Pharmacological Reports, researchers tested 4 key terpenes found in moderate to high levels in cannabis. So they tested geraniol, linalool, beta-caryophyllene, and alpha-humulene. These compounds were tested in mouse models of post-surgical and fibromyalgia pain, showing significant pain relief, with geraniol standing out as being the most effective. The study builds on prior research done by a guy named John Stryker, a member of the Comprehensive Center for Pain and Addiction. And Dr. Stryker explained that in their research showed while terpenes are not effective for treating acute pain, such as pain from an injury like stubbing your toe, they are highly beneficial for managing chronic or pathological pain, or what's referred to sometimes as antinociceptive pain. We'll talk about that in just a bit. So in this case, the terpenes were were able to significantly reduce pain in models of fibromyalgia and post-surgical pain with chronic, both of which are chronic conditions that have long-lasting pain as opposed to acute pain. So fibromyalgia is a chronic musculoskeletal disorder affecting up to 5% of the global population and has limited treatment options, with current therapies proving insufficient for many sufferers. The findings of this study are especially important. In addition, post-surgical pain, while temporary, can lead to long-term complications due to physiological changes such as inflammation. By offering an alternative to opioids, these findings suggest that terpenes play a critical role in improving pain management outcomes. One of the most important promising aspects of the research is the potential for terpenes to replace opioids altogether, especially for post-surgical pain. Opioids, while effective, come with severe side effects, including constipation and a risk of addiction. Dr. Stryker points out while opiates are effective at controlling post-surgical pain, they often lead to complications. Study that terpenes can provide a novel and safer therapeutic option for pain relief following surgery is growing in popularity. Globally, millions of surgeries are performed a year, with post-surgical pain management being a critical area of concern. As Dr. Stryker noted, we're always looking for better options, and this research shows that terpenes can provide a safer, non-addictive alternative to traditional opioid treatments. Research conducted by Dr. Stryker and his team also highlights the untapped potential of natural plant compounds. As Todd Vandera, PhD at the Comprehensive Center for Pain and Addiction, explained, nature is incredible at making unique chemical structures. Many of these chemicals are unknowns when it comes to their abilities to aid human health, disease, and disorders. Terpenes work through the adenosine 2A receptor, a pathway often targeted by caffeine, suggesting a sedative effect. This mechanism could further be explored in future studies to understand its potential for managing chronic pain in patients. The research also opens the door to further discoveries in natural medicine, with the possibility of finding more compounds that could address unmet chemical needs. Well, that's the article. I went back to the primary reference that they're talking about, which was published in December of last year. And I'll just read the abstract of the paper real quick. Terpenes are small hydrocarbon compounds that impart aroma and taste in many plants, including cannabis sativa. So they're also in other plants like citrus plants, and geraniol, which they point out here, is actually an essential component of rose oil. So Mother Nature doesn't make a separate set of terpenes for cannabis. She uses these terpenes in all of her plants. A number of studies had shown that terpenes can produce pain relief in various pain states in both humans and animals. However, these studies were methodologically limited, and few established mechanisms of action. In our previous work, we showed that terpenes such as geraniol, linalool, beta-pinene, alpha-humulene, and beta-caryophyllene produced cannabinoid behavioral effects via multiple receptor targets. We thus expanded this work to explore the efficacy and mechanism of these cannabis terpenes in relieving chronic pain. At first, we tested for anti-nociceptive efficacy by injecting terpenes 200 milligrams per kilogram body weight into male and female CD1 mice. By the way, those are transgenic mice, okay? Not transgender, transgenic, okay? With chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathy, which is abbreviated CIPN, or lipopolysaccharide-induced inflammatory pain, finding that the terpenes produced equal efficacy to 10 milligrams per kilogram morphine. Okay, so let's just talk about that for a second. So they're using 200 milligrams per kilograms terpenes, and they're comparing it to 10 milligrams per kilogram of morphine. So it's an order of magnitude more, but we know that terpenes are much more safe in terms of their impact on human health than morphine. They also found a similar effect with, this is interesting, Dr. T, 3.2 milligrams per kilogram of Win 55-212, which is the Sterling Winthrop drug that's a full-on agonist of CB1. That's about an order of magnitude more potent than THC. We further found that none of the terpenes produced reward as measured by conditional place preference, while low doses of terpene combined with morphine produced enhanced anti-nociception, either by themselves or alone. So these are both hitting the adenosine 2A receptor, which is an important pain receptor for anti-nociceptive pain. And also they identified in spinal cord specific CRISPR knockdown that that receptor is really important to couple the pain signal with what our brain actually senses when we actually sense pain. So that basically verifies that that target that they're hitting, the enzyme target, is certainly involved in the transmission of pain. In vitro, something called CAMP, which is cyclic AMP, and binding studies in silico modeling suggest further studies that terpenes act as A2AR agonists. Together, these studies find that cannabis terpenes as potential therapeutics for chronic neuropathic pain and identify the receptor mechanism in the spinal cord responsible for this pain. So this is a really important study because it's identifying that, yes, cannabis terpenes, which have to be used at a higher dose, can have the same effect as morphine, but again, doesn't have the addictive effects, doesn't have the constipation effects that morphine often has. But they also went further to identify the biological target. This A2A receptor, this adenosine receptor, is a very important receptor in the transmission of pain signals. You know, Dr. T will tell you that pain is there for a reason. It's there to alert our body that there's something that's not right, whether it's chronic pain or acute pain. It's important for those pain signals to translocate to the brain so we could realize that we have to treat that pain. But oh, so great that we can treat that pain with natural compounds that don't have the toxicity and other side effects that these opiates have. So I thought this was a really important study. And, you know, it says what we've always said. In fact, they call them terpenes, but if they're talking about geraniol, they're talking about linalool, those aren't officially terpenes by a chemist's opinion. They're called terpenoids, right? So terpenoids is a much larger class of molecule of which the terpenes are a subset of. Terpenes specifically are fragrant hydrocarbons. So as soon as you add an oxygen to those molecules, they're no longer terpenes, but they're terpenoids, right? So more accurately, these authors should be calling their compounds terpenoids because they're looking at things like linalool, which is the fragrant component of things like lavender and lilacs, and things like geraniol, which I previously said is the fragrant component responsible for the smell of rose oil. If you smell geraniol, it'll smell just like roses. So yeah, it's to me no real surprise that these things are having effect on pains. When you smell those, you tend to think about flowers and other things, and maybe it just takes your mind off the pain. But certainly the fact that they are demonstrating a therapeutic efficacy on pain, I think here is really good. And it might speak to the fact that, yeah, people use cannabis to control chronic pain issues, and this might be the underlying mechanism by which that all works. So that's my story today from the halls here of St. Michael's College in Colchester, Vermont. I'd be interested in what Dr. T and my other illustrious correspondents have to say about this and what people have to say in the chat.
Well, speaking of the chat, Dr. Mark, we did get a super chat in from Troy Lawrence who says, why not open it up to the science with the neuropathic universities? He says that there's 5 that create all natural certified doctors.
Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, let's have at it. I mean, Dr. T, this is something that probably most medical doctors who prescribe cannabis already know secrets out of the bag, and you can use cannabis and various preparations of cannabis to control pain. Do you often think about that when you have a patient in your office, Dr. T, who's complaining about chronic pain, and could cannabis be part of their therapeutic regimen?
Absolutely. It's the most popular reason for the people I'm consulting with. Usually when someone comes in, and I'm not even, and it doesn't have to be chronic pain. I've had patients use cannabis after surgery, so for the acute pain after surgery. So I believe it works for acute pain too. It really depends on the preparation. Some people have just used CBD, after knee replacement, and have not used any of the prescribed opiates that the doctor gave them after their surgery, and have done just fine with it. So it's interesting. And in terms of the terpenes, though, I'm just wondering why these guys did this study. I mean, they like wallop these animals with like mega doses of terpenes, nowhere near what you would find in a plant, right? And unless you take that plant, tons of it, and concentrate it, there's no way. We dose CBD for pediatric seizures at 10 milligrams per kilogram CBD, which you don't even find in the market out there. People are not giving 200 milligram, 1,000 milligram doses of CBD. If you buy that, that's the whole bottle. But that's really what the dose is that these kids are taking for their seizures at that level.
Wow.
So that's not even available.
Are you referring to what we would call a rescue dose, or is that a maintenance dose?
Of CBD for seizures?
Yes.
That's the maintenance dose, 10 to 25 milligrams per kilogram. Yeah, 10 to 25 milligrams per kilogram. For the average adults is about 2,000 milligrams per day.
Yeah. Dr. T, do you know Dr. Alan Shackelford in Denver?
No.
Yeah. So Dr. Shackelford was Charlotte Figge's doctor. Charlotte Figge from Charlotte's Web. And so when we first developed some CBD tinctures, and we were looking at what a maintenance dose would be, and a maintenance dose for our audience is a dose that you would give a kid who's prone to having seizures, so they basically don't have seizures, so a preventative dose. When they're actually in seizure, you give what we call a rescue dose. And what we found based on Dr. Shackelford's data, and I think a lot of that was based on his treatment of Charlotte Figge, we found that a maintenance dose was somewhere about 20 to 30 milligrams. What we found effective for basically stopping a seizure dead in its tracks was about an order of magnitude higher, so closer to 200 milligrams would be what you would feed kid to basically stop the seizure while the seizure is happening. So do those numbers square up with what you've observed, Dr. T?
No, not that low, too low of a dose for your maintenance dose. Epidiolex is dosed at 10 to 25 milligrams per kilogram. And when I worked with a Lennox-Gastaut patient in Northern California, we didn't see the seizure stop until we reached 10 mgs per kg, which is much higher than just the 20 milligrams.
Okay.
We were using whole plant too, but it was variable. She's on Epidiolex now.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to certainly vary from patient to patient.
Yeah.
And I think what this study tells us, which is something that we probably already know, is that the full spectrum medicine, which has the terpenes as well as the CBD, might be more effective than just CBD on its own.
Yeah. I still don't know why these guys did this study. What's their point?
Well, I have a question about this study, because Dr. Mark, you alluded to the terpenes not really working for like minor pain, but working for what would be, you said, like basically like severe pain, but you used another word for that. For what?
Yeah, chronic pain.
For chronic
pain as opposed to acute pain. That's right.
So like if you're in a hospital, right, and the doctors are telling you to measure your pain level, I'm going to assume that anything that would be, you would consider acute pain would be like anywhere from a 6 or above. Am I right on that?
It's not the level of pain. It's it's pain that's been around for a while versus pain that just all of a sudden happened. Like, you cut yourself.
Continuous pain. Got it.
Yeah, you've got arthritis. That's chronic. Right?
Okay.
It's always there.
Got it. Very, very, very fascinating.
Good job, Jason. Jason got new words today.
Lots of new words. Lots of wrinkles in my brain today. Not on my face, but in my brain. And anyone else have any questions, Rico, Jesse?
I think it's pretty fucking dope.
I do too. And on that, we are going to go into our final commercial, and we're going to be right back.
Oh man, your knees still bothering you, man?
Yeah, my left one, But I'll tell you what, I've been using this new CBD cream, and it works like a miracle.
CBDs? I done heard about them CBDs. I was out there on them Twitters the other day, and I heard they get you high as a kite.
Well, not this stuff. This stuff is tested. Every batch, all the way through, pharmaceutical grade, and in a GMP certified facility. So you're not going to have to worry about flying high.
GMP certified? I might have to try some of this out. Where I'm even find this?
You go directly to aimhighhemp.com and they will ship it to your door right away. Test it. It's not a name, it's a promise.
No, I'm saying the ones that I saw.
And we are back, you guys.
Worry about your own eggs, Rico.
Yeah, that's right. Oh boy. Oh, easy. We're so not going there. We are rolling right on in to Jesse Barney. He's the founder of Barney Design Co., where he can help you with all of your graphic design needs, your branding aspects, and help bring your brand to the highest plateau. That's right. It is none other than Mr. Jesse Barney.
Yeah, thank you, Jason. Good morning, y'all. I got a cool story out of a website called Task and Purpose, written by Patty Nyberg. And it is a new bill could create VA centers to treat vets with psychedelic therapies. The story's quite long, so I summarized it for everybody so we could just get through it, even though I would encourage everyone to go read it. It's really cool. It starts with Amy Rising, who is a veteran who worked at Scott Air Force Base in Illinois in a squadron that helped coordinate and support fighter jets in Iraq and Afghanistan from afar during the early 2000s. After coming back from those wars and being done with her service, she was using Vicodin and Percocet to cope with mental health issues. And she eventually was able to quit by using cannabis and helped pass New York's medical cannabis law. Now she's helped craft a new bill supported by both Republicans and Democrats that would create what the bill calls Innovative Therapies Centers of Excellence for the VA. This is all built on the fact that there's 6,000 veteran suicides a year on average since 2001. That's 120,000 vets, folks. Not a small number at all. Very sad. And the number is continuing to rise. So because of this, there's this massive movement, and if passed, these therapy centers would allow for treatment of mental health issues with innovative therapies, including ibogaine, ketamine, psilocybin, and DMT, as well as create avenues for research and trials for these therapies in a controlled and regulated manner. So it sounds like a win-win-win-win-win. The bill also calls for the VA to report back on its findings and recommendations on how to improve the delivery of these therapies, which could impact drug policies down the line. Like I said, this just sounds like a win-win-win-win-win to me, and I'm really excited for these veterans to be able to have access in our own country rather than leaving for Mexico or South America or some other country to go and access ibogaine or ketamine therapies in a clinical setting. So this sounds just really awesome. I'm going to toss this especially to the doctors and see what y'all have to say.
So I'm curious, are they building a new service at the VA? And is Elon approving of this?
Well, this is so.
That's what the bill's proposing, is that they're going to build new services and new centers. Actually, there'd be 5 of them.
And so there's been a lot of work on it, and shout out to Amy Rising. That's my work wife in DC, and she has been working on this bill for a while. So I want to definitely congratulate her on getting this across the finish line and whatnot. In regards to this, there's been a lot of work going in. But a story we covered yesterday is Doug Collins, who is the head of the Veterans Affairs Services. He had a conversation earlier in the week with RFK, which we covered on yesterday's show, that said that he had a mind-blowing conversation in regards to psychedelic therapies. And so that with yesterday's story, with this story, this could be a precursor for changing veterans care overall, and this could be one of the biggest things that could happen to help our veterans out. So I'm super hopeful for this.
Yeah, it sounds really awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if the bill passes, they're going to build these new centers, and then there will be access to these new therapies and innovative therapies that anecdotally so far and the clinics that are outside of the country have shown tremendous results for helping veterans, especially with PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
And when we have 120,000 veterans who've committed suicide in the last 20 years, we need to do something.
Yes, most definitely.
What did Sean Karen say, like 23 a day?
Yeah, it's a lot.
Well, they say it's 22 a day, but Sean said that it's more than that.
Yeah, reported.
Yeah. He's like 22 is the number that they mark it with, but he says that it's more than that.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is awesome. I mean, I think like we've used our military professionals as, test subjects for everything else throughout the history of this country. So why don't we let them test something that they want to test that could actually be beneficial to them, that's safe?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Totally right.
This is where our whole drug scheduling thing that's been created by the government is just a major failure across the board.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It often gets lumped into the whole psychedelics thing, but it's been shown in the literature. There's reports from Stanford Medical that it does have a dramatic impact on treating traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you guys saw this. It was in the news about a couple of weeks ago. Now this is really interesting, Dr. T. There's a new study that says you don't actually have to have a brain wound to get traumatic brain injury. That just the shock wave of firing these large guns and rifles that we ask our men and women in uniform to use is enough to basically create a shock wave that's basically creating traumatic brain injury. And yeah, they've directly correlated this again to several vets who had no visible injury, like they weren't in like a roadside bomb accident. All they did was shoot lots of guns, and these guys basically go out and kill themselves because they have this traumatic brain injury that's basically going very undiagnosed. So anything like Ibogaine or any of these natural, this actually speaks well to the article that I just talked about, which is that Mother Nature creates a lot of the medicines. It's our job as scientists and as doctors to go out and find them.
Mm-hmm. It's like a treasure hunt or an Easter egg hunt.
Totally, and it's all chemistry, so I love it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so excited.
I am. I'm very excited. It's coming up. It's coming up. A few more days.
So excited.
That was super interesting, man. And like I said, I hope this bill makes it across the finish line. I anticipate that it will. I know there's been a lot of work put into it, and as you said, it's very bipartisan with the current sponsors and people that have put time and effort into creating this. And so much love and much success in regards to getting this across the finish line.
Is there any reason why it would not? Are there any people like speaking out against it?
No, it looks really good.
Solid.
It's supported on both sides of the aisle. There's Republicans and Democrats very united, very outspoken about this bill. So it looks really good. And in fact, in the article, the bill is published in the article at the bottom, so you can read the bill too. It's a pretty simple bill. It's not crazy. It's not hard to read. It's not long. It's very simple. And these 5 centers that would be created are just universally supported.
This would be awesome. Yeah, that's right.
Fucking fast, man.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of things passing, are you ready to pass it on to Jenny Beth Dills, Mr. Rico Lamitte?
I am for real.
All right.
You know. So glad I'm not a man, plagued with henny breath and krills. And bring this down for Jenny Beth Dills. She is the founder of Kind.
That was the dumbest shit you said today, and you went off on tariffs initially. So.
Because those tariffs are dumb as fuck. So
keep it pushing, pimping. Let's go.
Yeah. She's founder of Cannabis Consulting. And just a certified 1C3 here to break us off with our last story of the day, none other than Jenny Beth Dills. What you got for us, Jenny Beth?
Oh boy, got a story though. So here we go. Oregon is fucking up. They're wasting money. They're moving goalposts. They're doing all the things in this one. Oregon has spent a staggering $46 million in the last 7 years trying to combat the state's black market cannabis trade, but officials still don't know if it's made a difference. The money pulled from cannabis tax revenue has funded a statewide grant program supporting law enforcement and nonprofits. It's led to the seizure of millions of illegal plants, hundreds of pounds of cannabis extract, and even weapons. It's also helped provide shelter and legal support for workers caught up in illegal operations. But according to the state's Criminal Justice Commission, the agency overseeing the program, there's still no clear way to measure success. Their latest reports admit they simply don't know how large the illegal market is or whether these efforts have reduced it. Good job staying in the shadows and the cut, guys. That's partly because Oregon has never developed a system to track these economic drivers of the black market or the effects of enforcement over time. Some experts say this points to a deeper issue. Oregon legalized cannabis without building a strong tools to monitor or manage the market. And as prices in the legal market fall and oversupply grows, more licensed growers may be quietly shifting products into illegal channels just to stay afloat. Jason Eli, a global drug policy expert, says the state is flying blind. The money shows a will to act, but without information, it's hard to know if those actions are making a difference. And while some local officials, particularly in Jackson County, which received the most funding, say the grants have helped reduce environmental damage and threats to public safety, others argue the black market is just adapting. Many operations have moved indoors, becoming smaller and harder to detect. Lawmakers are now asking tough questions. Senator Mike McClain told agency officials during a recent hearing that he wants to know whether the state is actually reducing illegal activity or just helping law enforcement balance their budgets. The latter. Adding to the challenge, the program was never required to evaluate the illegal market as a whole, only to report on enforcement activities like raids and seizures. That's left a big blind spot when it comes to understanding the full scope of the problem. Some experts are now urging the state to bring more voices into the conversation, including cannabis business owners, consumers, and economists, to better understand what's driving the black market and how to bring more people into the legal system. For now, the future of the program and its funding is uncertain. The legislature's Joint Budget Committee is set to discuss it in the coming weeks, with supporters warning that cuts could open the door for illicit growers to return in full force. As one sheriff put it, if we stop what we're doing, they'll flood back in. We've seen it before. But with no clear data showing results, lawmakers face what one official called the million-dollar question. How much more should the state spend? And will it ever be good enough to shut down the black market for good? So here's the problem. Cannabis taxes should not be going to police for enforcement of illicit markets. There's no metric. If you're going to attack any problem, I don't care if it's how to clean out your garage after 10 years. You assess the size of the problem before you jump in there. You don't just go willy-nilly and start pulling shit out into the driveway. So I think that $46 million is a pretty large spend, even over 7 years. And I'm sure the guy from Jackson who has received the bulk of these funds doesn't want to see this go away, because why would he? I'm sure they've got some really cool police like scat packs and stuff now. So I think that we need to look at what's actually happening here. Oregon product is everywhere. It's shitty and it's everywhere. So what we need to do is look at the oversaturation, the overtaxation of the industry if you want to build a more robust license market. But trap wins again.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to the trap. You know what I mean? These people just have it all backwards as far as their whole enforcement protocols and whatnot. They just they just want to just create jobs for themselves to basically do nothing and be able to complain about everything.
In contrast, do you know, Jenny Beth, if what California has spent? Like $3 billion over the last 7 years or some shit like that?
Yeah, are we still better and getting out too? So, you know, I mean, Like, all right, cool. I think the key of this article was
I think that's great. We should follow the money. I don't think it's worked at all. I'm just saying, like by contrast, I'm saying I don't think this.
I think a better contrast would be Washington because it's a similar size. California is like way too big.
It matters what the amount is. I don't think that it matters what the state is. We're seeing the same thing from state to state to state. And the key portion of this article was legal operators forced to backdoor product to stay alive.
That's true.
They can't survive.
That is true, and it's happening in every state on every system. Is that just is the how it's working?
Thanks to tariffs.
I mean, people got into the legal market because they didn't want to do it illegally anymore. They didn't want to. I mean, personally, I didn't want to be driving my kid to school and get picked up on a warrant. I didn't want, you know what I mean, to deal with those things. And that's why I wanted to get into the legal market. But you guys have forced people to do what they've always done.
Yep.
Well, at the same time, too, you know, old habits die hard, Jenny Beth.
Yep.
People don't get money.
Yeah, exactly. People have to survive. People still have to keep their lights on, and you know what I'm saying, keep their kids fed. You know what I'm saying, all of that stuff. You know what I mean. Jesse knows what's up. Jesse got like 8 kids.
Pull out one time.
Hey,
pull out game mad weak, son.
Mine.
Okay, all right.
Jesse couldn't pull out of a driveway.
Oh man,
Jesse would rather pull up than pull out.
There's no driveway long enough for me to pull out of.
Oh man!
Hey.
Wow.
Hey.
Speaking of pulling up and pulling out, are you ready, Rico?
Yeah, it's been a journey.
Yes.
Thank you all. Join us for another episode of High 9 News. You can catch us live weekdays 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to the super fans. We had was it Troy?
Yeah, we had Ben LeBone and also Troy Lawrence. Much love. Thank you guys so much.
Put a tariff on the penguins.
Easy there.
Leave the penguins alone.
Easy there.
What about the polar bears, man? What about the polar bears?
Easy there. Sponsored by Coke, bro. Leave them alone.
They're white. They're fine. I'm kidding.
That's actually false. If you've ever seen a shaved polar bear, they are black. They're
a shaved polar bear. A shaved polar bear.
Yeah, polar bears are actually
shaving down a polar bear. They're fucking big, Rico.
Yeah, you're gonna shave a polar bear. Good luck with that.
No, they some that have been studied for science and some that had diseases and stuff like that. Like they're black.
One of them had hair loss, huh?
Yeah.
Do you have alopecia?
Hey, could be. I don't know. But big love to the rest of the audience and online supporters. Catch us across all media platforms. Tuning into the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. Lost my spot here. To our vetted correspondent team tuning from all over, bring us much needed variety of perspective and your respective opinions to the table. Our production team, Cloud Media Partners, all the sponsors keeping our headlights on. And our AV struggles to a minimum. Keep our headlights on. It was not directed at you, Jenny Beth. I promise. As always, Cannabis Sativa L reason we show up to read these stories every day. Thank you. It has been Friday, April 4th, 2025. Show's over. You all been blessed with top industry headlines. Hope it's enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until Monday. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High 9 News, cannabis industry's #1 daily news show. And pop it out, Jesse Barney. What you got for us today, my man?
Oh man, I'm excited. Life is good, and just hope everybody has a great weekend. Rock and roll.
Learn about tariffs.
Watch out for those tariff increases.
Yeah, shout out.
The last word of the day was to Jesse Barney, Rico.
Shout out to tariffs, making America great again. You got.